All right, folks. Welcome back to part 2 of Fyne Conference here, sessions 3 and 4. Oh my goodness, my audio is on here. Okay. Andy did such a good job presenting earlier and covering what Fyne was and giving a good introduction. I am Stephen Houston. I am a software developer. I've been doing Linux development for, especially in the desktop market, for like 15 years, a little more. Andy and I have worked together quite a bit over those years, most of that time. And when Andy decided to start Fyne and chose to use Go, he came to me and he said, well, Stephen, why don't you come work on this project with me? And I said, well, I don't know Go, and I don't know. And Andy said, no, it's cool. He said, I wrote a book. All you got to do is go read the book, and you'll be able to contribute to the project. So I did, learned Go, learned Fyne really quick, and started contributing. And so one of the things that really piqued my interest was Andy's imagining of what a desktop using Fyne would be on Linux, and so we decided to make that happen. And that being said, we will now talk about Fyne Desktop. As I said, I'm Stephen Houston, software developer and analyst, 15 years of experience in Linux and desktop open source development. I've got some links there to my website, Twitter, and GitHub. So, let's talk about what FyneDesk is. FyneDesk is an implementation of the window manager piece of the Linux desktop, and it's written in Go. For those of you that may not be familiar with Linux desktops beyond, just some names you've heard like GNOME or KDE or things like that, that's the piece that FyneDesk is, and that's the piece that we're doing with FyneDesk. So we handle window management and more, which makes it a desktop environment, and we'll get to that later as to what that is that makes it more than window management. You can see a cool little screenshot here of FyneDesk in action and what it looks like. For those of you who are really familiar with Linux and Linux desktops, you may be asking yourself, oh man, yet another Linux desktop. I think Andy said in his presentation something very similar about another UI toolkit. But we have our reasonings for it, and Go has a really big presence in web frameworks and services and that sort of thing. But I think it goes unnoticed that Go is a really good language for desktop UI development, and that makes it appealing for Fyne, and that makes it appealing for Fyne Desktop. And there is no full-featured Linux desktop environment that exists written completely in Go. There's been some window managers here and there, but what we're going for is that full-featured Linux desktop environment written in Go, and we have goals with it in our reimagining of it that really, I think, fill a void where Linux desktops, for the most part, are not, they don't have consistency in their aesthetics, or they have an inconsistent design across applications or parts and pieces. So that's kind of where we are and what we're going for with reimagining the desktop. So as I said, with those things in mind, FyneDesk was born. It is a native Go desktop. It does follow material design, much like the Fyne toolkit does. In fact, it uses the Fyne toolkit. It has a unique interface. It doesn't really look like any other desktops across Linux or Windows or Mac. and it is specification compliant, and we'll get to that, so that it works with all of your Linux applications, and the specifications they follow. FyneDesk can handle it. One of the cool things about FyneDesk is that it has a cohesive look and feel with the Fyne UI applications. Going forward, that will provide a ecosystem for Fyne apps to exist that's really cohesive and looks good. As I mentioned, we do follow specifications. We follow material design. We follow the Inter-Client Communication Conventions manual. We'll get into what clients are a little later, but it's basically a specification that tells you how to communicate with windows that are open, applications that are open. The extended window manager hint specification is much along the same lines. It just extends the Inter-Client Communication Conventions manual. We do also follow the free desktop icon theme specifications, so that most icon themes work, and the way applications work across Linux and other desktops and toolkits, which are used to seeing how they work, the icons they show, that kind of thing, will work on FyneDesk as well. So let's talk about the structure of FyneDesk. It is made up of 6 packages, and those packages are the desktop, internal, main, settings, theme, and WM packages. It uses the Fyne toolkit for rendering. Really nice. So we don't have to have drawing or rendering code actually within the FyneDesk application itself, because we use Fyne, which is an OpenGL backend. We also use the Fyne toolkit for internal applications such as settings, dialogues, and widgets within FyneDesk, so that it does have that cohesive look and feel that we're talking about. We do use a software canvas rather than OpenGL to draw window borders and decorations. This saves resources. OpenGL stacks are quite large, and there isn't much graphics or animations that go into window borders and decorations. They're easy to draw and not hard on software. So we use the XGO bindings to communicate with Xorg. This is how we manage to communicate with applications in Windows, and receive input from them as well. So now we'll go through the packages, and I'll give you a brief overview of what each is, especially for those of you that might be interested in helping contribute. I think this is a good overview of where you can start looking. The desktop package is your main pieces of the look and feel of the desktop. It's your desktop background, it's your application bar and taskbar, the widget panel, which consists of a clock and a battery meter, brightness, buttons, systems actions, that kind of thing, and the application launcher, which allows you to start typing the name of an application you wish to open, and it'll auto-complete it and show you matches and allow you to open it. We'll get into all of those features a little later. The internal package is where we have our icon and application lookup handling. Currently it supports Linux and Mac OS icons and application lookups. And it does provide other packages with the available application names, paths to executables, and paths to application icons. The main package, of course, is going to have your binaries, but it also determines what icon provider to use based on your platform. It sets up the window manager on Linux. On Mac OS, it would set up the embedded desktop, which doesn't actually manage Windows, but it does give you the desktop of FyneDesk so that you can debug from Mac or run it from Mac and develop with it and look at it and get a good feel for it. It won't actually allow you to do anything with any windows or open them or manage them, but as far as the desktop look and feel goes, you'll be able to use that. And it sets up the root desktop or root window on Linux, and this is your main parent for all windows that exist within the desktop. The settings package creates the settings dialog. It manages saving user preferences. It allows you to change the desktop background. It allows you to, potentially change the icon theme or quick launch icons. And it will allow you to configure your monitors and screens for multi-screen displays using XR&R. The theme package manages theme components that are specific to FyneDesk. So the decoration icons, which are your close, maximize, minimize icons, the default theme provided background, the default look of the cursor, and then the colors of the panels that exist within FyneDesk are all controlled from the theme package. The WM package, WM meaning Window Manager. This is where all the magic happens. It manages clients, which are your application windows, and it handles drawing borders and window decorations around those clients. It will communicate with the display server and clients and windows. So in that sense, everything, all of your interaction that's actually happening on the desktop pretty much happens in the WM package. Focusing windows, stacking windows, moving windows, resizing them, actions like minimizing, also known as iconification, maximizing, full screen. Any of this stuff is going to be handled in the WM package. So whereas the other packages might provide, your aesthetic look and feel, your fun pieces, your application launchers, your clock, that kind of thing. The WM package is what's working behind the scenes to actually make any applications and windows that you open work. So we've got some diagrams here that we'll go through. How the window manager works here. We have clients, which are, application windows, Chrome, anything like that you open, Firefox, that's a client. That's an application window. And a client communicates to the display server, which in our case is Xorg. Xorg will then communicate to the window manager, which is FyneDesk. And it's two-way communication between all of that. So the way this might look, as an example, Chrome opens, it sends some messages through to the display server, says, hey, I'm here, I'm open, this is my window, this is, the size it needs to be, this is the state it's in, whether it's minimized, whether it's normal, and I'm ready to be drawn and put on the screen. The display server will then send that information through to the window manager to FyneDesk. FyneDesk and the window manager, we'll get to it on the next slide, will do everything it needs to do to set up the window and to be handled. Any changes that Fyne wishes to make to the client, the window manager will send a message back to the display server, which then relays that back to the client application window, back to Chrome. So that's kind of the two-way communication and how that works and really what's going on in the WM package. And within the WM package, we have a few pieces that are separate. We have the client, which are your application windows. We have the frame, which will be your border and your decorations. And then we have properties, maximized, full screen, borderless, etc. So on the previous slide, when you saw that the X server would send the window manager a message and say, hey, this client's here, it's ready to go. What we do is we create a client within our code, and we apply a frame to it based on any hints that are sent through to us from the server. So we put a border and we decorate it, and then we set it up to be able to communicate back and forth with the client about anytime that border and decoration is resized, anytime that it's moved, that kind of thing. The client can also query and get responses back on properties of the windows, such as its state, minimized, maximized, full screen, that kind of thing. And then it can go back and adjust the frame as need be. So this is kind of how the window manager piece of that puzzle is working. And, if this is clear as mud, I understand. It took me a little while, all these years, to kind of get used to how it all works with the client server model that is Linux window management. But the specifications and documentation are very good. If this is something you're interested in and you want to jump in on, I'll be there to help you every step of the way. You can read the specifications, you can find documentation, you'll start understanding it very quickly. So, now to the parts that everybody was probably excited and waiting for. Let's talk about some of the features that FyneDesk has now. It's a sleek, simple window design. You can see in this screenshot here, we have the Fyne Demo app, which Andy previewed and showed in his presentation earlier. And you can see that the borders and the title bar and close and maximize and minimize buttons really have a cohesive look and feel with the Fyne application. Looks really good together. They match. It's excellent. Just a really good feel. The panel that FyneDesk has will put all of your information in one place. It's a clean panel. You got your clock, your date, application launcher, battery meter, brightness meter, and a user system action menu. As we go forward, and we'll talk a little more about this later, but as we go forward, any kind of widgets or gadgets or nice little additions, this would be a great place for them to go. Excuse me. The application bar that we have actually is a good story. Andy and I worked on a project 15, 20 years ago, something like that, where we made an application bar, and it was called Engage, and we loved it, and everybody loved it, and it kind of went away and didn't see the light of day for a long time. And so when Andy and I started working on the desktop project, we said, we should bring back that design and code. So that's kind of what we did with the application bar, and it has quick launch icons and a taskbar for running applications. This is where you will get your standard idea of what windows you have open. You can also open applications via the application launcher. So if the icons or apps are not in your app bar, we do provide an application launcher. It's pretty cool. It populates as you type, auto-completing what you're typing and showing you choices that match. And it matches on more than just the name of the application. It matches on descriptions, it matches on exec paths, that kind of thing. If there's any part of the application that matches what you're typing, it will populate here. And you can then click to open those applications. So really neat feature. So that brings us to FyneDesk 1.0. It is currently in alpha, and our goals for it really are to be a stable and usable Linux desktop. Not necessarily the most feature-filled for this first release, but one that can be used as a daily driver without issue on Linux. And we are very close. Our alpha's there. You can test it, submit feature requests, bug tickets, any of that kind of stuff is needed. The more eyes, the better. The more hands-on, the better. And once we get through that testing phase and through the alpha, we'll have a release coming soon. And that'll be FyneDesk 1.0, and likely will coincide with Fyne 1.2. So, what is the future of FyneDesk? We've got some big ticket items that we're going to start addressing once we have our stable and usable desktop out. And it's going to focus on creating a feature-full desktop environment from that point forward. And there are some things that are going to be very exciting coming. We are going to add multi-screen support and configuration. Currently, FyneDesk only supports one screen. Now, you can configure two screens using XR&R, and FyneDesk will just draw its entire desktop across both screens. So it works in that way right now, but that's not necessarily ideal, especially when it's trying to calculate the middle of the screen, and the middle of the screen is between two monitors or that kind of thing. So in the future, we will support multi-screen by treating each screen separately. This is standard across most desktops and operating systems. So that will be a very nice change. Me personally, I use FyneDesk as my daily driver every day on my laptop, and it works great. I'm ready to use it on my desktop, but I really need that multi-screen support, so I'm highly motivated for that one. Virtual desktops and a pager. So one thing that's common across Linux desktops and available on other desktops, but really most common in Linux desktops that you see is virtual desktops. These are, I don't know how to describe it other than they are each a desktop that exist, not physically, but within the software, and you can configure windows and where they go on each virtual desktop. You can move them around. You can change virtual desktops to show you which one is available on your screen. This is really good for multitasking, people that have a lot of windows and applications open. I personally use them a lot. I'll keep some terminals on one virtual desktop. I'll have Chrome with my important tabs on another one. I'll have Goland or VS Code open on another, and that way I can seamlessly just switch virtual desktops to quickly get to where I need to go or what applications I want to see without my desktop being cluttered or stacked, in a really ugly way. So it's just a way to be clean. And a pager is basically the the representation of the virtual desktops. So it allows you to switch virtual desktops. It shows you what windows are on each virtual desktop. It basically looks like a little gadget with squares for each desktop, showing you what's on there and allowing you to switch between them. So virtual desktops and pagers are coming. Those virtual desktops will be configurable, and that's going to be very cool as well and really help productivity and multitasking. So, a full window switcher. As of right now, Alt-Tab will switch windows. It'll switch your focus between windows and raise to the top the next window in the stack. This is cool. I mean, it works, and a lot of people like to do it that way. Some people prefer to have a full representation of all the windows that are open right in front of them, like an expose or something, and be able to choose which window they want to go to that way. That is something that we are looking at adding and adding soon, and that will be another really cool piece to help productivity within FyneDesk. Extensibility via widgets. In this sense, widgets really, I would say, cover two terms here. Widget or gadget kind of being the meaning here. When you think of gadgets, you think of you can stick a Post-it note on your desktop, or you can, put a monitor that shows how much memory you're using or how much CPU, or, a control for networking, or control for audio, all of these little widgets, gadget things. But the cool thing about this is, with Fyne and the way it's structured and works, we also mean Fyne widgets. You can create a Fyne widget, and it will easily be able to be placed on the desktop, in the desktop panel, perhaps the application bar. So the sky's really the limit there on what we can do with that extensibility and where and how we can put widgets within FyneDesk, which is always cool. I love toys. I love being able to put widgets and gadgets here and there. I love to change it up often, move it around, take some away, add some. I like to play with my desktop that way. So something I'm really looking forward to in the future when we support that. So some additional features that we're going to add in the near future would be a screen lock. So you can lock your screen and then unlock it with a password. Additional configuration tools will look at allowing you to configure, key bindings and mice bindings, and configure more of the application bar, or icon themes, look and feel, that kind of thing. And we'll add support for desktop notifications. So, you get those little pop-ups that show up on your desktop and says, you have 100 software updates you need to install, or something like that. We're going to add support for those desktop notifications so that they can be seen within FyneDesk. So, further in the future, after all those features are done and we're feeling really good about how many features FyneDesk has, and feeling really good about its stability and usability, well, then we'll look at doing some big ticket things. Compositing. What compositing does is it renders windows off screen in a buffer, and then allows you to take that buffer and create an image out of it, and then render that image back to the screen. So in doing that, it allows you to have some really neat features, especially aesthetically. You can do 2D and 3D effects within the buffer and then render those effects back to the screen. Transparency is another one that it allows you to do. You can add shadows to windows. So really compositing being the next big step forward in really getting a good solid look and feel, and really extending what we can do there. Wayland we'll get this question a lot. Yes, it's on our radar. When it's going to happen, I don't know. How it's going to happen, I don't know. We may do it when we decide to do compositing. We may just implement Wayland and compositing at the same time. But hey, look, we are always open to ideas, feature requests. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to see what you think we need to do next. You can go to the FyneDesk Git that you see at the link there and submit any tickets or bugs that you see or features that you would like us to address, and we will certainly look at that. You can also find us in the Gopher Slack, which our website, Fyne.io, has an invite link to. And you can just come into the Fyne desktop chat and talk with us, and we'll be happy to help you get started or listen to anything any feedback, criticism, anything you have. We'd be glad to hear it and talk through it with you. So that brings us to the moment that I'm sure everybody's been waiting for, and that is a demo of FyneDesk. Alright, here I am back for just a second. Let's pull it up here. Nope. Sorry guys, it is taking me a sec here. I'm having to open it in Zephyr because I don't want to lose my presentation. I want to keep it there, so give me just a sec. Alright, so here we are. This is FyneDesk running in Zephyr. This is what it looks like. We covered a lot of these pieces. The desktop background is an interesting story. That is actually Loch Fyne. Loch Fyne is in Scotland, where Andy is based out of. It is coincidental. After the fact of Fyne being created, we actually found out that there was Loch Fyne in Scotland. So we found this really good picture of Loch Fyne and thought that it was fitting for the desktop background. So a lot of the pieces you see here are the ones that we discussed in the presentation. On the right here, you've got the panel with the clock and date, the application launcher, your battery and brightness meters, and your user system and settings menu. Down here is the application quick launch and taskbar we talked about. So it's pretty neat. The application launcher looks like so. So let's start typing an application and watch as it populates what we're looking for. Once you find the app you're looking for, you click it, and here you go. You have an open application. We can see down here in the taskbar that application is running. So let's open Fyne Demo here. Okay. So we have Fyne Demo open, and we now have two windows open. So let's talk about focus for a minute. In FyneDesk, you switch which window is being focused by clicking. So as you can see, I click between these two windows. I can also switch that focus down here in the taskbar, so I can do it this way. So a lot of ways that you can do it. You can change the focus by Alt Tab, like we discussed. So you can see we've got a really good look and feel here with the Fyne demo app. And the taskbar and application launcher, let's see, we can launch an application here. We'll launch Chromium. Oh, there we are with Fyne's website. So it actually launched in maximize mode, so we just unmaximized it. We can maximize it again so you can see that effect and see that that works. So you can also minimize or iconify your application. So if I hit minimize here, it's hidden, and we can see down here in the taskbar, there it is. If I click it again, it's restored. You can also do that minimization by just clicking the icon in the taskbar if the window is focused, like so. We do support applications that want to use their own title bars or decorations. Chrome being one of those, you can see that when we select to use not the system title bar and borders, we now get Chrome with its default on theme, and it works much the same. You can move it around and resize it and minimize it. Everything you could do with using the system title bar and borders, and we can also hot swap and switch back to our own decoration and borders. So pretty neat feature. A lot of Linux applications will want to use their own title bar and border. So rather than overriding that like some desktops would do, or not allowing it, as I said earlier in the presentation, we are fully specification compliant. So if clients, Windows send us messages that say they want to do that, we allow it. So you can close an application there, as you can see, and Andy showed some goodies, I think. I'll go back through them a little bit so you can kind of see. We do have solitaire and very nice cohesive feel. You can sit here and play solitaire, and looks like I'm having better luck than Andy had in his presentation. Hadn't even had to go to the deck yet. Text editor, same sort of thing, and we can resize the windows within FyneDesk, of course, all of your typical normal window functionality. We do support the custom widget windows, of course. Basically, if it's an application, FyneDesk will handle it. And just for my purposes, I'll run FynePhoto because it's my Fyne application. It is nowhere near complete, but it is a cool image thumbnailer and viewer. So let's see, we get to a folder here that has images in it. We thumbnail it. We show them. This all happens concurrently. I think Steve mentioned in his presentation, it's one of the cool things about Go is just how easy it is to write applications like that, that can do things concurrently with ease and not in the main loop. So there will be more to come from FynePhoto. It is a work in progress, but another cool Fyne app. So this is FyneDesk, and we are getting ready for release, and it is nice and stable and a very aesthetically pleasing desktop that we're proud of and we enjoy using. I'll close out of that. So let me look here and see if we've had any questions. Let's see. not seeing any questions. Let's see if I can give you a little example of what some of the Fyne desktop code might look like. This is the client code, and you can see that it is very clean. It basically just handles your properties with ease, or your actions with ease, I should say. You can see iconify client, that's minimizing, uniconify is restoring, unfull screen, full screen. You can see with the ease that we do this. The main package that handles messaging is pretty neat. So these are the allowed actions and the supported hints that we have. Let's see, I just got a question. It is slow because I'm doing a ton on this desktop right now, and it was running in Zephyr. So if you actually pulled it up and used FyneDesk, as your desktop and not embedded in Zephyr, you would see absolutely no performance issues there, or no slowness. But thank you for the question, Jersey. Let's see. Anyway, yeah, these are the allowed actions and supported hints. These hints and actions will come into the window manager via client messages. So you can kind of see here in a switch statement how we're receiving the messages and then dispatching them to their to their destination, which is usually in the client. So you can see here from the window manager code, we may get a change in state for a window, and we're told that we want to make a window iconic, which is minimized, and that calls the client code that iconifies the client. And the client then updates its stored properties to say that it is now hidden. So everything is very message driven, very much protocol driven in how it works, and there is a flow to it that is really intuitive. So if any of you guys want to contribute and jump in, be happy to help you and show you the ropes. And I think that I am about out of time here, so let me check one more place. Okay. Engage. Yeah. So I think that's it, and thanks for listening to my presentation on FyneDesk, guys, and I hope you found it interesting. Even if you're not a Linux user and you're using Fyne on other platforms, hopefully you found this interesting, and it was cool for you to see that there is a place where your applications that you write can fit into a aesthetic and cohesive, coordinated environment and look really good. So we're proud of FyneDesk, and we're really excited about where it is, and we're even more excited about where it's going. Thanks, guys.